our president, Mr. Bruce Wade. Let's give Bruce a round of applause.
Let's take a journey through some of the historical times, both future and past. So firstly, I've got a date for you. 1652. Why is this date relevant to us? Anybody? It's the day that Jan arrived with his 3 ships. He was on the Dromedaris. Anybody remember their grade 5 history and know the other 2 ships? No one. What's that game? Are you smarter than a 5th grader? Okay. Clearly not. Don't ask me, I've forgotten them. But in April 1652, Jan van Riebeeck and his 3 ships arrived in our Fair Cape. Not this bay, but Table Bay across, and they were the first people to colonize. Are we allowed to use that word? Colonize the Cape and set up permanent workstations, fruit farms, and wine farms in our beautiful Cape Town. This number is also really important because it strikes another important number. Is because on July 2003, our Springboks played the All Blacks, and the score was 16-52. Not a good day for our Springboks, but we'll come back to them in a moment. Our second date that I want to share with you is 1859. Now this is a really, really interesting date because it's a date that has affected you and me and will affect everybody else. But not many people know this because this is the year when this book came out. The Origin of Species, well, what is now known as The Origin of Species. It had a title that kind of filled the whole page before we had designers and stuff. Origin of Species by Charles Darwin. It was a book that was published and launched in London in front of all the scientists and the politicians, and it gave way to a change of history because for the first time humans and people in power had scientific proof that God may not exist. And this book is really interesting because not only does it now describe what we commonly call evolution, but it changed the legal system from you are accountable to God to you are accountable to a jury of your peers. And it has changed the legal systems around the world. It has changed scientific ways, and before we had BC, we now have BCE based on the stuff that's come out of this book. And it's really, really interesting because as we shift more and more away from what we thought was right to what we commonly know as general right. And one of the sayings that has come out of this book is survival of the fittest. We use that and we drop that saying often in keynotes. It's a survival of the fittest, and we use that to justify, to squash minor people. But it's actually one of those quotes that if you say it loud enough and often enough, it becomes true. But it's one of those crazy things that it's actually not true. So let's look at the real quote that the book says. It says it is not the most intelligent of species that survives. It is not the strongest that survives, but the species that survived is the one that's able to adapt and adjust to the changing environment in which it finds itself. Charles Darwin. Okay. If we update that and replace his book with another very significant book published this year. Come book, you can do it. Calculating Your Speaker Quotient, authored by 2 really influential people. Okay, Charlotte and myself got together. Charlotte phoned me one day and said, I've got this crazy idea. And I said, I love crazy ideas. Let's write a book about it. So this book was published just a couple of months ago. And in this book we have this quote that says something like this. It is not the most intelligent speaker that survives. It is not the wealthiest that survives. It is not the one with the most letters after their name or before their name. Protocol observed. But the one that survives is the one that is able to adapt and adjust to the changing environment in which we find ourselves. So it is with that is his great sadness that as president of the association, I have to announce the loss that we have suffered as speakers. And it is not only in our speaking association, but speaking associations around the world. As we've shared on different presidential forums, and we've spoken about what on earth are we doing, we've seen the death of those who have been unable to adapt and adjust to the changing times in which we find ourselves. And probably never before in our lives have we had changing times that we are at. So pause for a moment and consider yourself adaptable, because you are here. And let us remember all those who are not. The generalists, I'll speak on anything, just give me the topic and I will do this. Okay? The copycat, oh, I saw Richard wear waistcoats. If only I could wear waistcoats like Richard, I too will be successful. Okay? The imitator, I will walk like other people and I will, you know, and we've all done this, but we've all adapted. The flash in the panner. Okay, those people no longer us. Or my worst type of speaker, I read a booker. Okay, I bought a book at Exclusive Books and it cost me 300 Rand, and now I will charge 15,000 Rand for a keynote on the same book. Okay, these people are no longer with us. But let's look at this adapting and adjusting and out of that. So this leads me on to a number of things. Well, one of the things I base my entire existence on is something that's unique because it's mine and we've developed it. We call this the 7 principles of sustainable innovation. And we have a hexagon with pretty colors. You may applaud. Okay? And out of that, we extract 6 different values. Now, you will see that the values here are very much aligned to what the PSASA values are. No coincidence, because they came from a similar origin. But it's interesting, out of each of these principles, when followed and taught and applied, will move a person, a team, a company, or an organization from potential death to sustainability. But I don't want to sit and lecture you on a whole lot of business principles, but I just want to extract some of the stuff. So let's do that. Let's take one of the, see, I found the more feature on PowerPoint. Did you see that? Really cool, okay. Okay, principle 6, let's look at that. Well, this is one we've spoken about. Principle 6 says this: learn to adapt and adjust fast to the changing world around you and act with innovational intent. Yes, I made that word up. Innovational intent. It's a word that we play with and something. How are you able to act to change? Do you act with innovational intent, or are you reactive? Innovational intent is a proactive stuff. It's stepping forward, leaning into that change, not being afraid to wait until, let's see what everybody else does. Oh, we don't have budget for that. Maybe we should have a commission of inquiry to investigate. Let's step back and look at where we're going. Let's do a bench test of various options. Okay, this does not apply to that. Innovational intent, a shorter version of that, get shit done and do it fast. All right, really, really nice, and let go of unnecessary stuff. I actually believe in these principles so much that I've tattooed them on my wrist. Let it go and get it done. Okay, true principles in that. What does this build? It builds a culture of survival, a culture of intent. And we've seen this within this organization. So another one, let's go back and have a look at this. If we want to build confidence, because there is nothing that a confident and courageous speaker will not attempt. We'll stand up under the baobab tree. We'll speak on the beach. We'll speak in the boardroom. We will speak with Bruce, and we will speak with confidence, and we will be able to go down. So principle 3 says, be authentic. Now this is a word we could literally have as a theme for an entire weekend, authenticity. What is that? Well, remember the opposite of authenticity are those epitaphs that we read off. That's the opposite. And where are the inauthentic people? Well, they're not here because they're doing cubicle nation jobs, ex-speakers. What does authentic mean? Well, it's simple. Learn to be all you were made to be and unlearn everything else. And I think as speakers, we model ourselves on so many other things and associations. Everybody here is unique and special, and we need to learn who we are. If you haven't been on a soul journey, if you haven't been on a journey to take yourself to new places and understand yourself fully, 100%, through and through and through, then you need to do this. It's a really interesting journey. Ask yourself, who is I am? And go write a book, just for yourself, and unpack that sort of stuff. So, understand all you are, the fundamental key to success. Fake is dead, real is real. Another tattoo, not yet tattooed on my body. And copycat is just that. It's copycat. So, let's move on to something more exciting. My favorite principle, communication. Principle 7 says, learn to script, tell, and live your story. It's a really interesting one. I market myself as a story engineer, and we're able to take companies and people and organizations and teams to tell their story. Once upon a me. Where are we going? The once upon a me is based on once upon a past, once upon a now, and once upon a future. What is your story? Where are we going? Stories connect, and we'll see tonight as we sit around the fire and we tell stories. Stories are a wonderful thing. I've joined Ian Hutting's Global Story Circle. If you're into stories, come and join us. Once a month we get together and we just tell stories about ourselves. And it is healing, it is powerful, it is emotional, and it connects us in such a way that is deep and transformational. Is absolutely brilliant. So what is our story? Well, let's do a presidential report, because that's really what this is all about. So there we go. 2021 report back. At the beginning of the year, even before that, probably 3 years ago, Charlotte asked me a question. She said, Bruce, if you were president of the association for one day, what would you do? I think she was just getting some ideas for her presidency, but we were able to do that. And I've still got that list, and I wrote it down. And then kind of 80 months ago, I got a phone call from Richard, and he says, well, would you? Could you? You know, would you take up this position? I was going, no. And he goes, Bruce, I'll give you wine. I was going, yes. I'm still waiting for the wine. But at the beginning of the year, this time last year, I wrote down a couple of key factors that we wanted to achieve as an association. And here's a summary of them. Build a strong leadership team with a succession plan. Tick. Fix all broken systems, update the old system. 82.3%. Create an association tent-poled by education. I think we're damn good at that, because other people around the world are looking and are beginning to ask questions and say, can we get copies of what you've got? And really find. Getting back to the new normal. I just had to put that in there. I've never used that on a slide before, but it was appropriate, and I'll never say it again there. But I think we find out where we are now. We've been able to get there. Make the association attractive to new speakers. Well, we got 8 speakers joining last month, and we've got about 12 already signing up for this month. Make the association attractive. Position the association on a global platform. Tick. Move from the old white men association to the new open mindset for all. Have fun. Don't die from stress. The last 2 were just personal goals. I'm still here. Did not die from stress. We've survived the year. So how have we done? Well, let's look at this impact. Firstly, we assembled a pretty damn good team for this year. A team that is being selected, and some of them coerced, and some of them leveraged, and some of them put there. But I think our outgoing exco that were relieved of duty at our AGM just a couple of days ago did a damn fine job. So if we had to scorecard them, what would that look like? Well, let's do a corporate scorecard, because we can. Okay, come on, there we go. So, in the last 17 months of our association, we have updated our constitution, updated the policies and procedure manual. In fact, it got a whole rewrite from Charlotte. We introduced 2 new membership categories, which are beginning to take traction. We introduced a new education-focused blueprint, which has become the envy of the speaking associations around the world. We've updated our financial systems. We've introduced the education speaker classes. We've reinvented the membership application process. We've introduced the membership badges. We have a new orientation meeting format that we've invented. We've re-invoked in-person meetings for all our chapters. Well done, outgoing chapter presidents. We've started a youth development fund, and we have a whole bunch of money in that account. I wrote the number down here, but I forget it. I did mention it at the AGM. But we have a chunk of change in our youth development fund. And again, that has created some interesting ripples around the globe on other associations. That money was raised by our midterm convention this last year. Our team has represented our association in Dublin at the GSS. And we had a whole bunch of fun there with Guinness. And we've grown our membership to 137 members as of the end of our financial year. And we've added a chunk of people in after that. I don't know about you, but I think that's a damn good scorecard. So well done us. So where do we move from there? Well, tonight I get the wonderful opportunity of handing over a piece of wood, commonly known as the President's gavel. And we need to put it on show, because it's one of those things that we need to, because not many people get to see this thing. It's kind of snuck in the back room, handed over, then put on the shelf for another year. So we're going to bring it out, and we're going to kind of put it on show so you can see. Thank you, it's not tonight, it's tomorrow night. So people just had a heart attack there because he's emceeing the gala and, oh, I haven't prepared yet. So we're going to do it. But it's really interesting. As we hand over leadership from one exco to the other, it goes back to that first goal: create a leadership team with succession. And it's not about leading for ego. It's not about leading for personal achievement, but it's about leading for a year, for a 10, 15, 20-year vision. And I think that's the difference. Our association is maturing. Our association is looking forward. And our association is growing in maturity and stature around the world. People are talking about us, not only at GSF associations, but all the other associations that we are involved in. We're talking about Bangladesh, we're talking about Cameroon, we're talking about Zambia, we're talking about Malaysia. All the people that are sitting there might not be big enough yet to become members, but are definitely learning and growing. And we are finding a whole bunch of associations around Africa that didn't even know that they existed in their own country, and we're helping them nurture those and put them on the map. And we're running our programs, and we're helping them, and we're coaching them into environment. So through the new GSF toolkit, which was launched by our members, Joni and Charlotte, this year, we are empowering and equipping people all around the world. We are damn fine. Where are we as an association? I think we have a big tick box where we're going. So it's really proud to sit there and say where we've come from, where we're going, and each year we step up. We step up and we step up. And I'm really excited about what's going to happen next year. Firstly, I'm in the advisory role. And secondly, we've got a kick-ass president for next year. And we're looking forward to our Sunday morning speech where we are going to go. So the vision must be followed by the venture. It is not enough to stare up the steps. We must step up the stairs. I found that a while ago and it really hit home. I said, I've got to use that in a keynote. And really interesting. So I charge us all. We don't sit there and say, one day, what if, we're going, the life is changing. Maybe one day we will. We've got to take that step. We've got to put our feet in the water before the water parts. We've got to pick up our sticks, our skirts, put on our high heels, put on our lipstick and step forward with the confidence that we can as professional speakers. So before I leave you, before you left in dismay, for those who don't know, it is okay we survived the 2003 disaster, because just after that, in 2007, we won the Rugby World Cup for the second time. Oh, and England. We won it again in 2019, and maybe, just maybe, this year, we will take the cup home again from France. So thank you all for being part of a most amazing year with us, and I look forward to sitting and watching where we're all going on this boat at a huge rate. Thank you very much.